personally, but we're going to do our best to kind of give you a glimpse of what we experienced when we were serving with the Mitchells in Mexico. We hope that our sharing can get you excited about another trip that we're hoping to do again next year. And we also hope that you can get to know the Mitchells a little bit better through our sharing, and also get to know better what El Monte is all about. So some of you may know our church supports David and Linda Mitchell financially as they serve full-time in Mexico. Some of you may not know that Linda is Walt and Bev's daughter. And Linda spent many years in our church, and David attended here as well after they were married for a short time. David and Linda were involved with leading worship, and they also helped with Awana. And I remember reading verses to David during handbook time during Awana, so that was a good memory. David grew up in a missionary family in France, and his parents are missionaries there today. And both of them serve at El Monte, and we'll learn more about El Monte in a little bit. But neither of them are paid by El Monte, so they solely rely on the support of churches and individuals. Here's the Mitchell family. David and Linda have 5 children: Susanna, Stephanie, Jessica, Jonathan, and Josiah. Susanna and Stephanie on the far right are in college, and Jessica hopes to go to college this fall. Jonathan and Josiah are homeschooled, and they're fun teenagers to be around. There was a lot of times in the evenings where they would entertain us. The boys actually slept outside in a tent, so we would have room in the house during the week. And they seem fine with it. Jessica plays the piano, and Jonathan the bongos, and David played the guitar during our morning devotion and worship time. So it was neat to see their family with their own little praise band in their living room. They are an incredible family that we got to know this week during our stay at their house, and they've sacrificed a lot to have us there for the week, and they're definitely sacrificing a lot to serve in Mexico. So 3 weeks ago, we traveled down to Mexico City, and here we are at Mexico City Airport. After sailing right through customs, we just praise the Lord that the travel went so well, and all the details just were worked out beautifully. There really were no hiccups whatsoever, and we know the Lord was in that, and all the prayers that went into that. We were already in our short sleeves while we were waiting for David to get there, so that was nice. Here we are in the Mitchell's van after a 2-hour bus ride from the airport to Cuernavaca. We spent a lot of time together in that van, and we all kind of had assigned seats. We'd all get in the same spot every time. Here's a little bit of traffic in Cuernavaca. It's a city of about 1 million people, and that's about 45 minutes away from Ticumán, where the Mitchells live. Ticumán is a much smaller village of only about 3,300 people. So after 14 hours of travel, we arrived safe and sound at the Mitchells' home. Here we are in the living room, signing on to the wireless internet so we can all communicate with our families. That's why we all look so concentrated. We are happy to see Walt and Bev there as well. They've been staying with the Mitchells for quite a few weeks now. Walt and Bev like to go there each winter to escape our cold weather, and of course, anywhere they go, they're serving, and so they're doing a lot of work while they're there with David and Linda. Here we are unpacking Walt's tools that he had us bring with him. And that was quite an adventure. This is what we actually brought with us. He broke it down into 7 pieces so we could all take 1 piece in our luggage, and so we all packed it away, and it was pretty heavy, but we got it there, and then he assembled it and built that little stand for it, and he was pretty happy to have it, so we're glad we could do that for him. Here we are on Sunday morning, standing around the local market in Ticumán. The men standing around, watching the women shop. So the women were buying beef for Sunday night. So this is just a few blocks from their house. It's just kind of a little market in the middle of town, and the beef's just hanging there, and you tell them what you want, and they slice it off for you and pound it out and put it in a package, and we had that in our tacos or whatever we ate that evening. This was just after the market. We had to get back to the house so we could get to church, but we were locked out. And in Mexico, everything is gated. So there's walls and gates and bars on windows, and everything's always locked. And that's just the way it is. Everyone expects things to be locked, and if they're not locked, then it's your own fault if something gets taken. So we waited for a moment to get back in the house. The boys were actually playing the drums in the house so loud that no one could hear us ringing the bell. So that's why no one came to the door right away. Here we are walking up to the church for the morning worship service, which starts at 11 a.m. Some of you might like that, the 11 a.m. start time. Things are a little slow in Mexico, so they start their church at 11. And here's the church. There's no glass in the windows, so we could hear the music from blocks away as they were warming up and playing and getting ready. We got there right at 11, and the church was about half full by the time we were 30 minutes into the worship. The church was full, so even though they started at 11, people still showed up late. We sat in the back of the church so David could translate the sermon for us. So this is just a view of the sanctuary. The worship and preaching was all in Spanish, of course, but they had a really good worship band. The worship band went for an hour, so we sang for an hour, and then the preacher went for an hour, so the service was 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. And one other thing I want to mention, we sang "Come Now Is the Time to Worship" there, too, as one of our songs, so that was neat to be able to sing that today, too. So the sermon, great sermon. The pastor did a wonderful job. He focused on this verse, 1 Samuel 16:7. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Some of the other verses he read, Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Matthew 5:8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Proverbs 23:26. My son, give me your heart, and let your eyes delight in my ways. Psalm 51:16-17. You do not delight in sacrifice, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. You, God, will not despise. So David did his best to translate what the preacher was saying, and so we could take notes and write down scriptures. But it was a really, really neat service. So the service finished after 1, and so you say, well, what about lunch? Well, in Mexico, they don't eat lunch until after 2 o'clock every day. So the church was done a little after 1, so here we are waiting outside, which is actually the old church building, which is just kind of kitty corner to the new church building. We're waiting out there, waiting for lunch. And if you notice the blue sign, obviously it's all in Spanish, so you may not be able to read it. But what it says is, Domingo, Martes, Miércoles, Jueves, Viernes, and Sábado. And those are the days of the week. And so they have services on Sunday. They take Monday off, but then they have something every other day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. There's something going on at the church. The ladies of the church were fixing tacos right there for us. And they do that to raise money for church ministries. So we just made our way into the sanctuary, and they set up a table for us. And here we are as a group, eating lunch that they're prepared for us in the old church sanctuary. Fresh tacos, corn salad, cactus greens, and a fruit drink. I'd never eaten cactus before, but you squeeze enough lime on it, and it tastes pretty good. So. Here's Barry and Walt eating together, just like at an Erie EFC potluck would be. And here's the view of the church and the pastor's home. And David said it took 10 years for them to build the new church. In Mexico, they only build whatever they have money for. So if they get some money, they start a building, and then it stops. And then they get some more money, and then they do a little bit more, and then it stops. And so everywhere you drive around, you see buildings, unfinished, bars sticking out, and rebar on the roof. And they leave that there because they might get some more money, so then they'll build another level later on. But lots of unfinished buildings. So they're pretty proud of their church and then the pastor's house, which is right next to it. So here's the team with the Mitchells and the Watts after our church lunch. ready to head back to the house. And here we are on Sunday afternoon for our rest time around the pool. 90 degrees, full sunshine. It was pretty tough. So here's the view of the front of the Mitchell's house. Once you get inside that front gate that we showed you, this is basically what you see. The men actually stayed in the second story. There's a kind of a big guest room up there, and the 5 of us stayed in that one room. So it's a really neat house. They had actually rented 7 different places before they found this home. It was a vacation home, and it had been kind of worn down and neglected. And David is a rehab carpenter, and so he thought, well, I can fix it up. So they've been fixing it up over the years, and did a lot of work on the kitchen last year, and have done some other neat things. So this is the view of the Mitchell's yard from on top of their roof, so looking the other way. So you can kind of see the gate is in the far back. Their cars just kind of pull in there, and there's a little carport. And then the restroom that the men used was outside, kind of by the pool, kind of off on its own a little bit. But you might ask, why was I on the roof taking a picture? Well, one of the days they didn't have any water, and then it turned into 2 days without water. And so we had to get a hose from the neighbor and borrow his water and fill up the tanks on the roof. And so we did have a little bit of hardship for a few days, but it wasn't too bad. So this is the view of the neighbor's yard from the Mitchell's roof. This was basically what we saw, what the men saw every morning when we walked out of the second story. And there's actually more than just that one cow. There was actually quite a few cattle in that backyard. But there's livestock in almost every backyard: cows, chickens, roosters. Plenty of roosters. So here's the Almonte family. And so, like I said, David and Mitchell, they live in Ticumán, but they serve at Almonte. And Almonte is really a much larger group of people, families and individuals, some that are local, but mostly that are foreign missionaries and their families who come and they serve there. The locals are paid a small amount, but all of the other missionaries don't receive anything from the camp. They're all supported. So a little bit about Almonte. They have 5 areas: camps, church development, pastor renewal, missionary training, and short-term missions. And it's hard to see the words on the graphic, so I'll just read what some of that says. 90% of Mexicans do not know Jesus as their Savior. So at camp, they have 96 camp beds currently. They have a pool, sports facilities, a meeting space that can serve thousands annually. As far as church development, 70% of pastors have no Bible school or seminary training. Pastor renewal. Mexican pastors are exhausted, and if you remember the schedule I showed you about having something every day, they do get pretty worn down. And so El Monte provides free lodging to pastors and their families for a time of renewal. Missionary training. They have courses to send Mexican missionaries to Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. And the Mexican missionaries are accepted in those areas much easier than Americans would be. They have dark skin, they have dark hair. In fact, one of the missionary students said in India, they blend in so well that they don't even know that they're foreign because they look so much like the people of that area. And so this is becoming a big focus for El Monte, where they're taking local Mexican people who are interested in missions and training them and then sending them out to basically all over the world. And then short-term missions is the last part. In the last 7 years, teams and individuals like us have experienced cross-cultural missions at El Monte. So here's a map of El Monte, and I realize this is kind of hard to see, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things, because it doesn't really give you the real perspective of what the camp is like driving around. There's a reason the roads are windy like that, because the hills are so steep. But basically, there's a front gate here that's always locked, and that you come in, and so you drive up the road. The shop is right around in here, where David keeps all his tools and all his stuff locked up. But basically, you come up the main road. Here's a basketball, tennis, volleyball court. Here's a pavilion that's not finished right now. It's just metal bars kind of sticking out of the ground. They're hoping to work on that soon. Here are 2 cabins, and each cabin holds about 25 kids, 25 beds. Here's their pool for the camp. And then up here there's 2 more cabins, and then kind of like a dining hall, meeting area, general little area. So this is the main part of the campground that they do camping on. But if you go farther up the road, oh, here's the soccer fields, or the football, as they call them, fields. Everyone plays football in Mexico. We got a chance to play a little bit the one night. It was kind of interesting. But anyway, you wind up the road a little farther. You come up here. This is actually one of the missionaries, the Wilsons, who serve at El Monte. They live there currently. Up here is a student apartment. I think there's 8 apartments for the missionary students who are there training. There's also one family, the Marshalls, who you'll see later, living there as well in a 1-bedroom apartment, which would be pretty tough. Here is a classroom where they do some of their missionary training. The dining hall for the missionary students. And then there's also apartments in there too that some of them live. And then up this road is where we spent most of our time. So this is a new building site, and this is a new building site. And both of these are houses that the missionaries who serve at El Monte will be living in. So the Wilsons, who I talked about, who live here, are actually going to move into this house. And then the Marshalls, who live in the apartments, are going to move into this house. And then they have another apartment for some of the students to move into, so it's kind of a big shuffle. So there was definitely a reason why we were there, and plenty of motivation to get it done. So now I want to show you a video that kind of puts together the history of El Monte, and does a good job just showing some of the facilities. It also shows the 2012 invasion. I don't know if you remember when the Mitchells were here, they talked about how the Colombianeros came and basically said, you guys own this land illegally, and we're taking it back. And they stormed the gates, tore down the gates, said, you got 15 minutes, get all your stuff, get out. We have the police on our side, so don't worry about arguing, and we're going to throw you out of here. And they did that for 6 months. Fortunately, the Mitchells didn't live at the camp, and they lived in town, so all the missionaries got to go and stay at their house for 6 months while it all somewhat got resolved. But they still are in the middle of a big legal battle, and it's cost them a lot of money, but praise God, everything's working out. So just to show you this video.
Hi, I'm Ed Somerville. This year, El Monte will be celebrating its first decade of ministry. We want to thank God for His faithfulness over the last 10 years, and you, our friends from around the world, for your fervent prayers and your generous partnership. Thank you.
Separarte un día, solamente que seas mi universo. No quiero darte mis palabras como gotas. Quiero un diluvio de alabanzas en mi boca. Que seas mi universo, que seas todo lo que siento y lo que pienso, que seas el primer aliento en la mañana y la luz en mi ventana, que seas mi universo, que llenes cada uno de mis pensamientos, que tu presencia y tu poder sean mi alimento. Oh Jesús, es mi deseo, que seas mi universo. No quiero darte solo parte de mis años, te quiero dueño de mi tiempo y de mi espacio, que seas mi universo. No quiero ser mi voluntad, quiero agradarte, y cada sueño que hay en mí quiero entregarte. Que seas mi universo,
Hi, my name is Benha, and I'm here to tell you that God is awesome. It's true that God is everywhere, but you can especially feel His presence here at El Monte.
Advanced, we were not surprised to begin experiencing opposition from the enemy.
El Monte has grown to become a multi-ministry center with 5 areas of focus: evangelistic camps, missionary training, short-term missions, church development, and pastoral renewal.
One 11-year-old girl came to us from a ministry that feeds poor children. At home, she had the responsibility of caring for 7 younger brothers and sisters. At camp, she laughed and played, swam and made friends. She said she enjoyed camp because she could be a little girl again.
Another girl came to camp from a ministry to children involved in human trafficking. While at camp, she learned of God's love and forgiveness. She gave her heart to Jesus and became a new creation. Now she hopes to become a lawyer so that she can help other girls trapped in similar circumstances.
Hi, my name is Enrique. Last spring I attended a missions camp at El Monte. It was there that I felt God calling me to full-time missions. Now, I'm a student at the CCT, preparing to work amongst immigrants in Europe.
I'm 18 years old and I'm from Germany. I'm here in El Monte as a short-termer for 6 months, and I really enjoy it because I like living and working with a multicultural team and also learning more about mission.
Quiero estar tan cerca que te pueda
5:10 says, "The hand of the Lord will rest on this mountain." Certainly this has been our experience over the last decade. But as we look forward to the next 10 years, we're faced with some daunting challenges. We're going to need to upgrade our whole electrical system. We want to install new telephone lines. We have to work on our water system and sewage systems. And we'd like to complete the construction on our new auditorium and build 2 new cabins. It's much bigger than anything that we can do. And we thank God for bringing together a team of people who love this ministry from all around the world. We invite you to continue to pray together, seeking God for His provision. And together we can praise Him for what He will surely do as this next decade unfolds. Thank you, and God bless you.
So I want to talk a little bit about our weekly schedule. 7:30 every morning we'd meet in Mitchell's living room for team devotions. The Mitchell family would play some music and we'd sing, and then we would study Philippians. So we spent the entire week going through the book of Philippians. 8 o'clock with breakfast, and Linda and Bev and some of the other ladies did a lot of work to feed us every day. 8:30 we'd pile into the van and leave for El Monte. Drive down the bumpy roads to get there. But on the way there, we would stop at the local Menards if necessary. If there was something we needed, we would pick it up there. Around 11 o'clock we'd take a morning break, and every morning they had a different missionary who serves at El Monte share their story about how they came to El Monte and what their role is there. And so this is actually the area, the common area between the student apartments. And so it's just open to the air. There's a kitchen there that the students can use if they want to. 2:30, we'd eat lunch at the dining hall with the missionary students. And we did spend some time helping wash all the extra dishes that we created. Around 5:30, we'd stop working and we'd load up into the truck. So you can see us all piling in the back of the truck for the ride down the hill to get back to the van. And then somewhere around 7 or 8 or whenever we got to it, we would have dinner back at the Mitchells. Or we would go out to eat at a local restaurant. We did that one night in town. The food was about $1 per plate, is what it cost. And I don't remember what that thing was called, but it was pretty good. The cooks were busy. The restaurant opened at 8 o'clock at night. And they were out of chicken by 9. So we had them busy there for a little while. David Mitchell, he's the head of buildings and maintenance at El Monte, and so he was kind of our project manager for the week. And then the Marshall family, Elliot, Joe, and the kids. Elliot works with David on the buildings and the maintenance there, and so he was kind of in control of the drywall team for the entire week. But he's David's right-hand man. And that's the family that lives in a 1-bedroom apartment currently. So he was motivated to get the drywall up. He's from New Zealand. Actually, they're all from New Zealand. And they had served in New Zealand and then got called to Mexico, and so they have a pretty fabulous accent. Sometimes it was hard to understand what he was saying, and you just look at him and he'd say it again, and then I look at him and he'd say it a different way because it's English, but I couldn't understand what he was saying most of the time. Also, they use the metric system in New Zealand, so he got very good, and Byron could somehow understand his drawing and know how many millimeters to cut, and they had a pretty good system going, and so I got to learn the metric system. It really makes a lot of sense if you think about it. So here's the missionary house where we worked at most of the week, and they call it La Roca, which means the rock. So this is where we spent most of our time. We were divided up into 3 teams. We had an electrical team, a drywall team, and a painting team. Here's the view from the second story of that house, overlooking the valley. The scenery is pretty incredible. And here's the other missionary house we spent some time at too, La Refugia, which means the refuge. So there are 2 missionary houses, or the rock and the refuge, up in the corner of the mountain. It's kind of a neat way to name them. So here's our work team for the week, all of us together. The electrical team, Walt, Josh, Tim Adams, who's actually an electrician for Trinity Electric in Moline. He was there ahead of us, kind of getting the electrical set up and going, and so when the guys got there, they just jumped right in and followed his lead. And then Brian was also on the electrical team too. They were pretty busy because they had to get all their stuff done before we could put the drywall up, and they worked pretty hard. In fact, they were so busy they never had time to clean up. It's kind of a joke that they made a mess everywhere they went. But here's Walt concentrating. He's pretty incredible. Never stops. He broke his glasses, did a bunch of different things during the week, but he just goes full steam ahead all the time. Josh and Brian installing outlets towards the end of the week once they got all the wires run. And they even got a fan up in the kitchen. So they made a ton of progress, and the people were super excited about all the work that they did. And here's Tim, as always, practicing safety first on a ladder. So this was the drywall team. It was Elliot, who I talked about, from El Monte, Byron, myself, and Barry. And so we hung out all week together up on scaffolding, putting drywall on tall ceilings. All the ceilings in the houses are pretty tall because it gets so hot there. They like to keep their ceilings high so they can have ventilation. Barry and Byron did the hard work. They had to do all the measuring and cutting, and then they'd carry it to us for us to put it up. So they worked hard. It's not an easy job. I'm glad it was him and not me, because it's pretty complicated. Because none of the houses were square. None of the things were. The angles were goofy. It was a tough job. But here I am up on scaffolding over the stairs on a board. It was pretty high up there for a while, so we were glad when we got that part of the ceiling done. Here we are in the second house, putting up more drywall on the second half, and actually that scaffolding that you see is on top of another level of scaffolding, so we were up pretty high here too. But it's nice to see progress. We got quite a few of the ceilings done, and then that enabled David to come back and start mudding, and so they were pretty happy again with all the work that we were able to do with the drywall. And like I said, we were always practicing safety no matter what we were doing. I trusted Barry to hold my ladder, and he did a great job. Here's the painting team, Julie, Jessica Mitchell, and Mary. And so they spent a lot of time together as a team. Julie hard at work, painting away. She never got any on her clothes, so we weren't really sure how hard she was working. Mary here painting, doing a lot of trimming. And Jessica on top of a 12-foot step ladder, painting the edges of the ceiling. So that tells you how tall that ceiling is. I'm pretty sure that's a 12-foot step ladder. Maybe it's a 10-foot. But, like all good things, they must come to an end. We had a lot of other really cool experiences. We saw some local ruins, and we went to some other kind of fun, neat places, but for the sake of time, we don't have time to show all that. Maybe some of the team members will mention that. So you'll just have to go back next year and see for yourself some of the places where we went. But now I'd like to invite the team up so they can do some of their sharing. And if you just want to sit here in the front row so you can pop up and down. Who wants to go first? Go ahead.
it's really hard to know where to start. When sharing, there's so much stuff that you really don't know how to express to someone else unless you just really experience it yourself. For me, deciding to go, I am presently going through a lot of crisis in my life right now, and that seemed to be a big hindrance. It seemed to be something that I thought, I can't go until I've got my own life straightened out. But yet God was saying to me, I'm asking you to go. You've got so many reasons not to go. You need to go. So I went. There's so much that is happening in El Monte, so many ministries there. And when you step on that ground, you can feel God's presence there. There's a love that surrounds you that is just amazing. And it makes you feel somewhat unworthy in some ways. But yet, God lifts you up and holds you up and says, you're here for me. And through all of that, we went about our daily routines of doing what we had to do and praying that we were ministering in some ways to the people that were there. One day I was working in the kitchen and helping Bev with preparing lunch, and we just had a lot of good conversation time together and meeting with the other students there. It was all good, and you hope that what you're saying will touch them and help them in some way. The example that you can be for them will help them in some way. But when you get home, you realize that God heals you through all things. There's just so much healing going on there. It was toward the end of the week, and I was talking to one of Mr. Wilson while I was cleaning out some paintbrushes, and for some reason, he whatever we were talking about, he used the verse of "My grace is sufficient for you." Verse that struck me very, very deeply, because I've known that verse for so long, but I realized how much I'd forgotten in the crisis that I've been going through of what Christ has really meant to me. And this morning, it was the song was there, and it was even deeper for me, and it was even more healing for me. This morning in my devotion time, I was just praying about what the Lord would have me to share. And He told me to share all of this, and I wasn't sure that I really wanted to share all of this, but this is what He told me to share. I am carrying, and this is me speaking to Him as I'm preparing for what I should say. It says, Lord, I'm carrying in my heart a pain that needs to be let go of daily. It needs to heal. It needs confession and forgiveness. May you open the eyes of my heart, Lord. May the bitterness growing inside me be turned into dancing and joy. Oh Lord, may I trust you more. May the joy of you overtake my heart as I go deeper with you, O Lord. I pray for discernment to know your peace, grace, and forgiveness again. O Lord, oh Lord, how do I not let this pain rob me of you? And He tells me to trust. Lean not on your own understanding, even when it feels like that is all you have to survive. This moment is what you have. Enjoy Jesus in it, or reject Him because this is your choice, to enjoy Jesus in it or reject Him because you fear, have pain, are angry at Him because of it, robbing yourself of the joy. And then I realized that I had been rejected, and that I know the hurt and the pain of that rejection. But I also realized that Jesus had been rejected too, even more by me, even more than I have ever been rejected, and He's been rejected by me. I have been living with rejection for so long that I had forgotten what it looks like. I had also been living with condemnation for so long that I forgot that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. One day when I was doing some painting, the roller got away from me, and it got paint on the adobe wall. And you can't get paint off of an adobe wall very easily at all. And I felt so badly, and I felt like there was so much condemnation in my heart for myself doing it. And Ed was walking through the room, and we had mentioned it to him, and he said, "No worries, no condemnation in Christ Jesus." Wow, was that a change for me? To be in a home in Mexico where the environment of love of Christ pours out over you in so many ways, and examples helped me realize that what I was really choosing to hang on to. When I got back, I had to get some groceries, so I went shopping at Walmart, and for some reason I was walking through the jewelry aisle, and I saw this ring, one that I'm wearing right here, and I thought, this is such a new beginning. Everything that I'm going through in my life right now, it's all such a new beginning, and it's all ordained by Christ. He is my Savior. So I bought this ring so that I would have a reminder not to despair, but to trust in His ways and not lean on my own understanding. As the bumps are inevitable in life, they sparkle with the light, just as it does when I move this ring around. When the light shines upon it, they sparkle. So we all have bumps, but Christ brings us His light. As the crossroads came, they are connected to the center of life, which is Jesus Christ. The mission at El Monte is a vast, vast ministry. The works there are God's, and you can see that. None of that could happen without God. And it's there through those whom God has chosen. Nobody can go there without being touched in some way. Jesus is being brought by example of love of those serving Him, and to those who step foot on the property, you can see that God is doing much. And they're just the instruments that are there, but that it is God's project.
Move that up. You want to stay up here, Mary? I need a pretty girl up here. Everybody look at her. Why don't you stay right here by me? Okay. Everybody look at this pretty girl here. I never talked to a mic before. I'm not a preacher, and I really don't want to do this, but well, probably would have been one of the reasons I wouldn't want to go in the first place. But you know what? I've been wanting to go on a mission trip or something for a long time. Walt Watts has been after me for years and years to do this. And so I'm going to pretend you guys are all like my wanted kids here. You're like about 5 to 10 years old. This will work out better. Nice young faces and young minds and everything. But anyhow, so this got started last fall, and I started finding out who's involved with it, and I seen that, well, Jason Norman. Well, that's great. Jason's a good leader, and he'll take care of everything for us and get things lined up. It's great. Don't have to worry about that. Don't have to worry about presentation and all that. We got Brian. Brian's going to be going along. Brian's a savvy traveler and does everything. He's a leader and you don't have to worry about anything. Got Byron. Byron, he's got family connections. Wow, you don't have to worry about that, you know. Got a mate. He's a tech geek, too. He can take care of all the technology stuff. Josh, standing up next to Josh physically, it's wonderful in Mexico. You don't have to worry about anything. Nobody's going to buy you. Great. Mary, she's got the church connection here. She's the prayer life. She'll take care of that for us. Then you got Julie. Well, Julie, as everybody knows, she's easy on the eyes. That takes care of a lot of problems. But even more important to me, she's easy on the ears. Because she's always positive and easy to listen to. She's always giving you that positive reinforcement. So I didn't have no excuses. It was a God thing. I knew it was a God thing. So I had to do it. And it was great. So we got started, middle of the night. Preacher was here to welcome us. Sent us off. Brandon and Alicia. That was fantastic. Got up in the middle of the night. Made that sacrifice. Sent us off nice. And didn't have to worry about the airplane or anything like that, because there's Brian and Jason taking care of all the connections, customs, security. Didn't have no worries. If I had to go by myself, I'd never do it. I'd be scared to death. Getting through the airports and all that stuff. Had those guys taking care of it. So we got there on Saturday, and of course it's we're tired, and a long day for traveling. You don't do nothing, but you're tired out. So I remember getting there and getting ready for the first night and getting ready for night, and it's kind of like camping out. I'm thinking, us guys all up together upstairs. We go up a spiral staircase. It's kind of cool. And we're upstairs by ourselves. The lights are out, and I'm thinking, boy, this is kind of like camping. But then Pretty soon I see a light comes on and bing, 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 bing. There's Brian playing on his phone, talking to his wife or doing whatever. And then there's Josh doing on his. And Byron, he lives with his, I think. So his is on at night. So well, that's still cool, you know. It's still camping out. It's still primitive. I'm sacrificing, right? So, but anyhow, in the middle of the night, it's hard to sleep there. You got dogs all night barking. Every night. Barking, barking. One starts, the other starts. Then the chickens, like Jason said, they don't know what time of night it is. They're crowing all night instead of in the morning, so that you don't really sleep real solid. But then about 6 o'clock in the morning, I think it's about 6, the bells start bombing. And it's bomb, bomb, bomb. 16 times the first night. Then it's a pause and 1. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning. Then about 10 minutes later, they start in again. Bomb, bomb, bomb. 18 times. Pause, then 2. Then about 10 minutes later, 20 times. Bomb. Then 3. Well, then a guy comes on a loudspeaker and starts singing. Well, by that, yeah, I'm wide awake. Which, you know, I'm surprised not everybody else is wide awake. I don't know, maybe I'm a light sleeper, I don't know. So I get up. They only have one bathroom for all us guys, and it's downstairs. You got to go down the spiral staircase to go down there. So that worked out pretty dang good. I mean, I could get down there and get prepared, have my own private time and meditation for myself and talk to God. I was worried about that, having my own private time, but that worked out great. That was another God thing. It really, instead of being an inconvenience, it was a God thing for that to happen. We worked with it. So they had our church, like Jason said, and that was fantastic. I don't want to talk about too much. The preacher will get jealous. I mean, you know, how well everybody behaved and how long we stood there and stuff. But on Monday, which I really came for, because I'm kind of the blue-collar type of guy, I wanted to get some work done, physical work. I wanted to see what it was like. So we got there, and I was kind of worried about it, because, you know, you're working with guys you never worked with before, and I wanted to get things done and have everybody work together. And that's not easy. You know, sometimes guys getting together and getting the job done. So we got there and sort of right away. We had a few problems right away because David Mitchell, you know, he's heading this up and he's got about 50 million things to do. And so at first we weren't too organized, but Elliot got there, and Elliot was the godsend. Because Elliot was the drywall, he wanted to get this done, of course, and he sized us up right away and figured out who could do what. We got young Jason up there reaching up when nobody else could reach, and he could bend around and do all the screw in and drywall, which worked out perfect, and he really got good at it. Byron did the precision cutting, because he could, like he said, he could translate what Elliot was saying better than I could, and he could do the precision stuff, and I just filled in where I was at. And we got a lot done, and it worked out great. We had Brian and Josh. Josh turned out to be a genius, which I didn't know he was that smart. Electrical. And Tim, he was a godsend being there, you know. That was a godsend for him to be there to line him up and get those guys going so he could get a lot of work done. So, another God thing. So we got through the day good, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. By Wednesday I was starting to drag though because it was hard work. We was going up and down those hills and it was hard carrying stuff and stuff. Really starting to drag a little bit. Thursday we were going to move over to the other house. And I knew that. And I thought, that's cool. But another house had even higher ceilings. Like Jason said, we had double scaffolding. You got to lift them higher and you got to work harder, and so I was kind of worried about that. But you know, God takes care of things like that. Walt came over that day and helped different things, and talk about water. You know, you're drinking water every day. We have bottled water they give us, and carry that around. You got to drink bottled water. That's all you can drink, and you get sick or something. So on that Thursday, it was really hot, like usual. I'm getting tired of the bottled water, so Walt was there, and they got a cooler pop they keep for the workers there, the Mexican workers. It kind of pacifies them. They don't get paid much money enough. They like their Coca-Cola and stuff. And so they keep the cooler there. So Walt said, I'm going to buy you guys a pop. So I said, yeah, that sounds good. So I went in there, and it was an orange Fanta, they call it, pop. And boy, that bugger was good. That sucker was really good, that pop. I hadn't had such good pop since I was a kid with my grandma. I was like 6 years old. Now, you guys are 6, so remember this. You know, how good that was, how good that tasted. Really hit the spot. So, of course, I got home and tried some. It's not the same. I gave some to Julia. It just doesn't taste the same. It's American pop. It's got the corn fruit taste in it or something. I don't know. So. But anyhow, we got through that day Thursday. You know, we got the meetings that these guys will tell you and the Christian stuff. Like Mary, she's the Christian guy. And I'm the work guy type. So Friday's going to be our last day, right? we got to get a lot of work done, but we got to quit like at 2:30 supposedly, because David wants to take us to a nice water park and restaurant and stuff. We got a lot of stuff to get done. We didn't quite get done at 2:30, but we had Brian come over and Josh to help too with the drywall, which Brian really wanted to help with drywall. I know he's worried about that, getting some of that done. So we got everything done we could, got lined up. Went to the water park, had a nice meal, which I had to take my hot dogs out, which Josh can tell you about the hot dog parties. So got that done. So we're ready for Saturday. So we have nighttime, we'd always have somebody there. Elliot was there and his family one night. We had a nice talk. Paul was there, different groups, people coming over for the meals. And, you know, like Paul said the one night, how it'd be a culture shock for us to go home. I really didn't know what he was talking about. Going home, you don't have no culture shock. You know, you're just in your own environment. It's kind of nice. But I kind of realized what he said, because we got back, and of course we had no problems, but we got Brian and Jason for the airlines and the bus trips and getting things lined up. The only problem I had one time going through security, the one gal kind of buzzed me, and Julie said, "Put your arms up." I didn't understand what she said, so she frisked me because I must have looked like a bad guy or something. I don't know. Anyhow, that was the only problem I had, but otherwise it was perfect because we had these guys taking care of things. So we got home Saturday and everything, and it's great, you know. I got to thinking, you know, it is kind of a culture thing, because these poor people there, they don't have much. And got David and Linda there to give up their lives. They sold their house, they quit his job, using their own money to go there and help people for evangelism, for people trying to save them. Here, all I have to do is, you know, write out a check, and I feel pretty good about it. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, we're all like in the same boat, because you got people. I got home, and I want money for this, money for that, money for that. You got to find money, but it's a lot easier than giving up your whole life to go down there and witness like that. So I just want to thank you people that helped support us, money, prayer, and whatever you did, because that was very important. Got a guy like me to go. So, thank you very much.
Well, I just wanted to say too, thank you so much for your support and for your prayers. They were felt, they were appreciated. Thank you so much. A lot of people asked me, even before I went and when I even came back, how did you do it? Like, how did you leave your babies and go and do this? And if it wasn't for my husband, I kind of blame him. He was the one who said, "I really want you to go, pray about it." I'm like, okay. And I did, and things fell into place. Grandmas and grandpas said, "We're going to help. We want to help. Let us help. You can go if you want to." And I just, that wasn't just the only thing, but the biggest thing for me, it was a peace. I had a total peace about leaving and going and knowing that things were going to be taken care of here. So I went. While we were there, we had our notebooks, Jason and I had purchased for the team, and we had we did the devotions every day from Philippians, but we also had like a devotion from the devotional Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, and we just copied that week's devotional, and on the second day there, this is what I read. "Thank me for the conditions that are requiring you to be still. Do not spoil these hours, these quiet hours, by wishing them away, waiting impatiently to be active again. Quietness and trust enhance your awareness of my presence with you. Do not despise these simple ways of serving me. Although you feel cut off from the activity of the world, your quiet trust makes a powerful statement in spiritual realms." And for a mom and a housewife who's always active, always doing things, this was kind of a huge stretch for me. I did have to be quiet and still. And then I also learned I was going to be painting, and I don't paint. Like, I don't at all. And I don't even have paint for my kids in my house. They can go to school and do that. Like, I just don't paint. And so that was going to be not a challenge for me, but just something that I wasn't used to. And we did have discussions and things like that. We got to talk and stuff. But a lot of the time, painting, we were just quiet. And we were doing our work. And I was doing trim work and, just concentrating. And so it was a lot of quiet times for me. And in those quiet times, I was able to worship. I was able to sing songs. I was able to think through scriptures. I was able to just pray. And it was so refreshing. Like, I worked hard, but at the end of the week, I really was refreshed.
And I just know that was the Lord giving me that refreshing in that. So in my painting, I was serving. In my serving, I was glorifying the Lord. And because of that, I just really felt blessed. The other thing I took away from the week was the great relationships that we got to build with some of the people who are there, the missionaries. You saw a picture of Elliot and his wife and their 3 children. I think I've always had like this idea that missionaries are like awesome, amazing, like people who don't do anything wrong and are always telling people about Jesus everywhere they go. And I just put them like really, really high on a pedestal. Well, I met Jo, and she's a lovely woman who loves the Lord. But one day we were talking, and she was telling her children to stop running, and they were going everywhere. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's just like me. Like, her kids are crazy too. And so that was just so neat. And one night she came to the house, and she shared with us how it's hard sometimes to connect with churches because, they have their sending churches, but they're not there anymore. So it's hard to reconnect with the churches when you're back for furlough. That's only like a 2-month period. And before I left for the trip, I had been thinking about serving on the missions committee. And I got back, and we went to a meeting, and I asked Alicia, I really want to serve. I want to be able to be on this committee. What do I need to do? And she told me, well, there's a hot dog eating contest. You and Pastor Ron, if you win, you can be on the committee. So we have to set that up, Pastor. But I really knew that I wanted to serve. And so when I got home, I started actually going to Facebook. And I would encourage you guys, if you are on Facebook, to find our missionaries, because they're on Facebook, and they want to connect. They also have email, and they also, if they don't have email, they're sending out newsletters. And if you don't have email, we'll print out their newsletters for you and give them to you, because they have a lot of things that are happening. So I went and I just started, I asked them, what can we pray for? So I just want to share some things. The Helwigs, who are serving in the Philippines, they were having some internet difficulties, but they're praising God because they're fixed, and that way they can talk to their families back here. They are looking for an orchestra teacher for next year at Faith Academy, so we can be praying about that. Or if you know somebody that could serve in that. Alan and Edie Lewis, they just returned from a 4-week trip to India and Thailand and serving, and they're doing well, and they're enjoying what God is doing in their ministry. And so coming back, I just want to encourage you guys to let's stay connected to our missionaries, all of them, because there's just so much happening, and so much that we can do. Like Barry said, we have so much, and they do too. They have the Lord, they have our support, but more than just our money and our prayers, sometimes they might need a card or a little email or something like that, because that's really important to them too, to feel connected. So I encourage you guys to try to make some connections with some of our missionaries. Thank you.
I guess we'll go down the row. I'm going to take interest on a missions trip to northern Canada next January. Native Indians out there. Okay, Barry's on board. See Jerry raising his good. If you're worried about the heat going to Mexico, don't worry about it if you go in February, because that's their dry season. The air is extremely dry. Everything is dusty. You take a step and it's poof, poof, poof. And the leaves are all gone. It's like our winter. Everything's brown. But it's very dry. It's very comfortable. 90 degrees, just perfectly comfortable. So don't worry about the temperatures. That gets down to about 60 at night. When you're used to it here, 60 is balmy. I mean, they told us to bring coats and, sweatpants. No, I don't think so. A sheet at night was enough.
Walt told us.
Yeah, Walt told us. He's kind of acclimated to the south there. So if you're thinking about going, don't worry about the temperature, because it's very, very comfortable. And if you're worried about the food, remember there's a Norwegian there, a little Norwegian, and it's kind of Spanish-Norwegian mix, and it's really good. So you don't have to worry about the food, because it's pretty normal stuff. I mean, we did eat cactus, but okay. You didn't have to if you didn't want to. And Josh will tell you about his favorite meal. It impressed him very much. I got to serve the week as the assistant to the helper of the electrician. And as Jason shared, we had an electrician there from Moline. and he was really good. And the one thing that was very impressive during the week was the leadership. Tim got the electrical all organized, and if you want to know about construction techniques in Mexico, I won't take time now to share about that, but if you're interested in that, let me know, because I can talk to you for half an hour on that. It's really interesting the way they build for their climate and so on and so forth, the way they do it. But it's not easy for electricians, I'll just put it that way. It's complicated in Mexico. It's the Mexican way. We heard that a lot, you saw the people on the ladders, it's the Mexican way. So at any rate, Tim was very organized. David, we had material. The teams always had material. I don't know, electricians, we were never slowed down, hardly ever. I mean, there was always something to do. And so great leadership there by the team, great leadership by Jason and Julie organizing and getting this going. So it was well done that way. I think the thing that impressed me most about being down there was the missionaries that are there. The people that are there are normal people. Ed, what's his name? Somerville, yeah. Ed was a principal. He was a teacher and eventually a principal at a school. Felt God's calling, and he went down. Paul was the administrator at a very large camp up in Wisconsin. Said their budget was $2.5 million. They're now operating on $6,500 a year for the camping ministry. So you can imagine that he had a big staff, lots of donors. He was the head of that operation, and now he's the head of this camping operation. He's the administrator. Ed's the visionary. Ed saw this property and said, we could do this. And Paul's the administrator saying, well, this is how we're going to do it. David, his gift is, he's project manager. He says, I can make this happen, this is how we're going to get it done. And get the buildings built. And so you just see these gifts all coming together. Elliot was a dairy farmer, and grew up on a dairy farm, was a finished carpenter, felt God's call. These are normal folks. And the thing that impressed me was they listened to God. That's what they did. And I just think how many times I don't. And it doesn't mean we all need to be missionaries. We just need to listen and do what he tells us. And that's enough. There's my boss. Big boss.
Everybody probably knows I'm not much of a public speaker, but this trip was very good for me because I could kind of open up a little bit, get to know everybody from the team, and they kind of got to know a lot about me too. My journey kind of started last fall. Kind of heard about the trip and wasn't really sure if I should go or not. I didn't know about leaving 3 little kids and my wife to go through life without me, and I think they probably appreciated some of the stuff I do, and being away from them, I appreciate a lot what they did while I was gone. So with my wife's support, my family's support, and the talk with Jason, I kind of thought, I better go. I had a lot of experience with electrical work and carpentry work, so I thought, I better go. So I want to thank everyone here that supported the trip, funding, prayers, whatever. I deeply appreciate it. As far as the trip goes, it was quite interesting for me. I'm kind of a picky eater, kind of a meat and potatoes type of guy, not a tacos, or the one Tuesday we had hot dog tacos. That's what everybody's talking about. Well, hot dog tacos with a spicy red sauce, you know what that can kind of lead to. Trying to run down a mountainside to hit the restroom, and it was quite interesting. Hoping they didn't sprain an ankle on a rock or a boulder or something, but it was quite interesting. And then we go to a resort, and Barry orders, I think, a hot dog or a burger.
I ordered a club sandwich, and David talked me into something else.
Well, I think he got a hamburger, and guess what it had on it? It had hot dogs on it.
Yeah, really.
So he got rid of those real quick. But I guess another thing for me was one of the reasons why I wanted to go on the trip. I wanted to somehow become a better spiritual leader for my family. And I guess through the prayer every day that we had, and kind of the devotions, and just mainly putting trust in the Lord, that was really good for me. I guess one experience I can say is Thursday morning I got a FaceTime message from my wife. She said, "What do I do?" So we had our garage flooded. So we had 3 inches of water, and I kind of did what I could to guide her through that, but I thought, man, I really need to be home, helping her and figuring out what I can do to somehow make things better at the house. So kind of thinking I'm thousands of miles away, there's not a whole lot I can do, but kind of pray about it and put trust in the Lord. Well, that night I got another FaceTime message with her, and we had 8 inches of water in our basement, or in our garage, kind of flooding everything. Kind of prayed about it some more, and with prayer from my team, I talked to her the next morning, and the water's completely gone out of our garage. So just putting the trust in the Lord that He will fix things and guide you through life. So kind of chokes me up a little bit, but that's one thing I did learn is prayer, and putting trust in the Lord is what you really need to do, and He will take care of you if you trust Him and pray about it. So I enjoyed everyone from the team, getting to know everybody better. Enjoyed working with Brian. He's a very respectable guy. I think highly of him, and got to know Barry pretty well. He's a pretty funny guy. We joked around a lot, teased each other about the hot dogs, and getting to know Byron, getting to know his journey, and he's very, very, very talented and smart with computers, and getting to know Mary. Didn't get to work with Mary much, but I enjoyed chatting with her and learning about her life, and kind of grew up with Jason, so kind of had some basketball stories. We got to shoot baskets one night and kind of sore the next morning. A lot of shape. And then just getting to chat and have some support from Julie. And I was pretty stressed about the issues at home, but she kind of helped me through it. And it's definitely a good trip, and I recommend anybody going, because it's definitely nice to put your talents to good use, because a lot of the people down there, they don't have much, and they appreciate everything you do. They're very thankful for anything you do for them. That's building something, helping them carry something. It's just, they're very appreciative people. So I guess that's probably about all I have. But thanks again for everybody supporting the team.
Good morning, Area Free. Thank you for supporting us as we went to El Monte, Mexico, Ticumán, and what did God do through you? I think that's the key question. And one of the things that I observed that was really quite amazing was the way everything worked together, so that Tim, the electrician who was on the ground, who needed to get the electricity done, could not possibly have finished that project without the support of these guys. It could not have happened. There was too much to do. Tim had to leave earlier than we did. There's no way that project would have been finished. And frankly, without finishing the electricity, there's no way the sheetrock could have been mounted, because you can't put sheetrock over unfinished electrical work when you have to run wires through all that stuff. And that was a lot of work for these guys. Appreciate you guys. I've been involved in missions both personally and from a distance for a lot of years. through another church. And this was one of the best trips I've ever seen. Thank you, Jason. You have done an excellent job. And you guys have supported a really good team. There was a problem that I had that maybe you can relate to. I have the advantage of knowing the Mitchells longer than you, especially one of them. And I also had the advantage of staying longer than the rest of the team, and a few interesting experiences that they didn't get to have. But my trip to El Monte started in 2006. My sister and her family, which is Linda and David Mitchell, had been in Mexico for a year. They came back to the U.S. to dispose of their worldly possessions for the most part, and to commit to going down there full time. And my last mission trip before this one was actually in Louisiana. It turns out that during the trip, doing some Katrina relief work, my sister and her husband drove through Slidell, Louisiana within 5 minutes of where I was working on their way to language school. So my trip to El Monte started that day when, the end of 2006, they were making the commitment to go down there, learn Spanish, to be there long term. And the thing that was really interesting to me is I had no idea that they were going through until, and I don't remember how I found out they were going through, but 10 minutes before they got there, they told me, hey, by the way, we're going through right next to you, can we meet you? So we visited for a little while, and that was really interesting. But I had a disadvantage that you might be able to relate to as well, and that is all of this stuff is somewhere over there. I had no idea. One, I mean, I know my sister, but what's she doing? I couldn't even say the name of the town that she lived in for years. Like, where is that? It means nothing to me because it was so far away. The Somervilles and the Wilsons and some of the other missionaries, I heard names, but they mean nothing because they're not connected to me. The importance of going in person to visit a location is you connect the dots. The people that are there on the ground suddenly become real people who have real needs and have real experiences. And all of a sudden, Paul and Ed and their wives and Elliot, they become real, and we can connect with them on a personal level because we've actually experienced being there. And I encourage you, if it's at all possible, go to visit a missionary somewhere. Mexico is open for another trip as soon as possible. Another thing that I observed, and I mentioned, after the team left, I stayed longer because it's family, and I wanted to visit a little bit more. And then I decided, I planned to stay a little longer, but I didn't really plan what I was going to do, so I kept going to work. So the next week, I was working with Elliot, and the thing that I observed is when a team is there doing a project, they really are working on a project, and they help immensely on the ground. But after the team left, life kind of goes back to normal, and there's a lot of stuff they've got to handle. They need a team to come down there to take care of the big stuff because there really are a lot of go-fix-it things they had to do. During the week that I was there extra, longer than the rest of the team, they had a pastor's conference and they had a water main break. So all of a sudden, all of the priorities change because the pastors kind of need water so that they can have their retreat. And so David and Elliot and everybody suddenly becomes, go fix the water problem, because if you don't, the water tower, water tank is going to be empty on the ground, and they're not going to have any water, and it'll be another day or two before we can get it to them. So all of a sudden, priorities become fix problems that break rather than go build a house. So I observed that, and another thing that I saw that the rest of the team didn't get to see is the 9 students from Mexico actually gave their testimonies and were sent on their practicum for the next 10 weeks. They called it 2 months, so it's either 2 months or 10 weeks, your pick. But they're actually doing mission work now in places that would be difficult for you and me to go to. Some of them are in places we can't talk about. Some of them are in simple places like Mexico City, talking to homeless people. But there's an awful lot of ministry happening from El Monte that we don't really think about as missions, because it's not us sending someone else, it's them sending someone else. And that's a significant thing that's going on from there. When we support people like David and Linda and Elliot who are building stuff, in my experience in the past, I've seen an awful lot of U.S. guys say, well, they're not really missionaries. But Paul explained to us as a team, please, please, please support David and Linda, because they support the others who are doing other kinds of ministry, not just maintaining buildings. Because without the buildings, there is no camp, there is no retreat, there's nothing going on that can be ministry until they have facilities that they can do ministry with. And I really encourage everyone to go and see it firsthand, because it's worth it. And I thank you guys. It's wonderful.
Well, once again, I just want to thank the church for all you've done. Like we said, financially supporting us, prayerfully supporting us, listening to us for almost 2 hours this morning. We do really appreciate it, and like everyone keeps saying, it's difficult to really communicate an experience, and so we do encourage everyone to somehow be involved some way. And I know everyone can't go on a trip, and not everyone's going to go to Mexico, but if there are ever opportunities related to missions that come up, whether it's corresponding with foreign missionaries or just being more aware of what they're going through. And you know, no one really likes to talk about money, because that's always kind of the taboo thing. But it's something I've always focused on, whether it's church or school board or home or wherever. It just always seems to be a money thing. And there was one evening when David just really shared their struggles and how they basically have nothing, where they've used all their savings and have poured their whole lives into what they have. And Byron put it greatly, where he talked about, you know, we don't really have a connection directly to El Monte. Our church doesn't support the camp. We don't send money there. Maybe individuals from here do, I don't know. But we do support the Mitchells as a church. And I would just ask that you guys prayerfully consider that as individuals as well, even if it's a small amount. If nothing else, as maybe as a way to anticipate going back there next year, starting to build a relationship with them now. And if you are interested, I do have forms available that I can give to you that has their information on them, that you could, of where to send a gift and how that works. But we do have a lot here. It's amazing the stuff we complain about here. When we go down there, we think, boy, it'd sure be nice to have that. Or, you know, we complain about our roads. I don't know if I've been on a road around here quite like what was down there that we had to drive on. Even on the farm, we complain about our roads, and it's nothing compared to what we had to drive up the hill on in the truck. And so I know there's been a lot of talk about missions, and I think it's definitely going to be a focus of the church and a continued focus of the church. But we just ask that you guys all prayerfully consider how you might be more involved in missions and how you might be more connected to everything that is going around the world, because there's a lot of people worshiping this morning just, you know, outside this building and outside this town and outside this country, and it really does open your eyes to see how big God is and how the world is worshiping Him every week. And so we just thank you again. I couldn't have asked for a greater team. We didn't have one problem the whole week. It was wonderful, and we know a lot of it has to do with the prayers that went into it. Our devotion time every morning really set the stage for studying Philippians and and the characteristics that Paul was trying to teach the Philippians of humility and putting others first and serving others. And I know that has a big impact too. So just to wrap things up, we really do appreciate everything. And if you have questions, I know you probably have questions. We were hoping maybe we have time for questions, but obviously we don't have time. But talk to people in your Sunday school classes, or come up to us afterwards, or we'd love to talk about it. And we probably could have talked about it for hours more if we were given the chance, because it really was a great experience. So we thank you for everything.